Mighty companions, I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles. Those online, I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles. This is Earl Purdy, and it's my pleasure to share with you what I need to learn and what I need to remember most of all. So we're going to be talking about how is correction made. How is true correction made? Whether it's correction that has to do with another person or the way to see another person. How is correction made in such a way that you can keep your peace? Because your number one priority should be your peace, because you can't give what you don't have. So I can't give you peace if I don't have any. I can't give you love if I don't have any. I can't give you joy if I don't have any, according to the Course in Miracles. So just remember that as I go through this, these are the guidelines. These are the rules. I want to thank those of you who are here in the body, close up and everything. Let me take a look around. Look at the various forms that I'm showing up in and we're showing up in. It's a trip when you come to realize all you see is yourself, but we're playing like we're separate. And I hope you're having a lot of fun with the separation game. How's the separation game going with everybody? How's that going? How's that working out for you? Well, we're going to talk about that. So here are the rules. So I want to jump right into it. You need not believe the ideas. You need not believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. I might say some things and it seems hard to believe. This is especially true if you are tuning into this and it's new, or it's not something, the Course in Miracles is not something you personally studied. So realize that some of the things that I say from the Course in Miracles you might find hard to believe, and some of the things might startle you. But you're not being asked to judge the ideas. It's not about how big of a judge we can be. If you're wondering if it's true, A Course in Miracles says, well, it's a real easy way to find out if the ideas are true. And the way that you find out if the ideas are true is to use it. If you use it, it says, well, if you use it, you'll see that it's true. But stepping back, analyzing it will not do anything probably but confuse you. Especially if you are constantly comparing it to what you already think and what you already believe. So just for a minute go, you know what, I'm just going to let myself hear this. Dude has already said I don't have to believe it, I don't have to accept it, I don't have to welcome it. So I'll just let myself hear it. The theme over the last month has been correction. And one of the things that the Course says is one of the most egotistical things that we can do is think it's kind and right and good to point out somebody else's mistakes and correct them. That if you really want to do true correction, what you would really be doing with that person is the same thing that you're trying to learn how to do for yourself, which is to give it up to a higher power, to give it up to the divine, to give that problem up to the divine, like you want to give your situations up to the divine. And then you ask Spirit within yourself, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to say? And who do you want me to say it to? So if you do feel a desire or a need to correct, then the Course in Miracles says you need to check in with your higher self. And and even easier than that, you could simply ask the person if it's okay. Would you be open to me giving you another point of view or sharing something? But in most cases, you will find that what you see in someone else is what's going on in your own mind. So what they've actually done is giving you an opportunity to see what it is you need to correct within your own mind. So if I'm about to point out your selfishness, then I can only see it through the part of myself that is selfish or relates to the idea of selfishness. So all you made me aware of is I need to have that idea corrected within myself. Because what I perceived out here is what's going on inside my own mind, what's going on inside of me. So the Course is saying if you use it, you'll see that it's true. So we're going to be on how is correction made on page 47 in the Manual for Teachers. in the course, and the manual for teachers. There's 3 parts to the course. It's a text, it's a workbook that gives you daily lessons to apply to make the principles real to you, and the manual for teachers. So please, Course in Miracles students, recognize that readiness is not mastery. Just because you say you're ready to be a more loving person, I'm ready to be a more conscious person, I'm ready to be a more forgiving person, doesn't mean that I've mastered being able to do that in every situation yet. Readiness is not mastery. Page 47 in the manual for teachers. Okay, all right, so let's get started. How is correction made? The course says, correction of a lasting nature, and only this is true correction, cannot be made until the teacher of God, which is the teacher of love, has ceased to confuse interpretation with fact. Just because a person has interpreted something doesn't mean that's the actual fact of what is actually happening. I could interpret my man over here as being my cousin, but that doesn't mean that that's a fact. So our interpretations and the meanings that we give things aren't necessarily a fact. They aren't necessarily true. So one of the first things that I need to understand if I want to have correction, and what does the Course defines as our goal? Peace. The goal of the Course in Miracles is for you to be able to maintain your peace of mind in every situation, because if you have peace of mind, it says it's easier for you to hear your own internal spiritual guidance. That a person that's full of conflict, fear, and anger, that's blocking their ability to hear thoughts of peace, love, and truth. Does that make sense? If I'm mad, then it's hard for me to hear the voice for peace if I'm angry and upset. So the Course is telling us that the first thing you need to do is stop confusing interpretations with being a fact. Just because I see something a certain way, and just because of the way I see it, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a fact. I can interpret that you don't like me, but that doesn't mean that's a fact. So the Course is saying correction is not going to happen, I guess, until a person begins to entertain the idea that their interpretations might not be the correct interpretation. The way that I'm looking at it might not be the way that I'm looking at it. In other words, there may be another way of looking at this. So I would like for you to take a situation in your life, a specific situation, and think about that situation while we're going through this, because it's easier to stay conscious if you're trying to apply it to something specific than it is if you just listen and look at it like you're listening to a lecture, because really what it is instruction. So the Course says that you're a teacher of God, that's a teacher of love, has ceased to confuse interpretation with fact or illusion with truth. So I've got to learn how to stop confusing false ideas with true ideas. I need to stop confusing fear and love. And the Course says, how do you do that? Well, I'm going to do this in plain language. If you argue with another person about the thoughts that they're having, the Course calls them magic thoughts. A magic thought is a thought of anger, guilt, grievances. A magic thought is a thought that I'm all alone on my own trying to handle everything. A magic thought is me thinking any other power other than the power of the divine is a real power. Anything other than the power of love is the real power. So the Course is saying if you argue with the person about a magic thought, if you try to attack their thought, if you try to establish the thought's error, if you try to demonstrate that the thought is false, you're just witnessing to its reality. So if another person is saying something that you don't necessarily think is true, and you feel that it's your need to argue with the person about it, that you need to attack it, if you need to establish that it's a mistake and establish that it's an error, the Course in Miracles says what you are doing is just making it that much real, that much more real. Like I said a few weeks ago, there are very little situations that anybody is really saying anything, even if you don't agree with it and even if you don't think it's true, that's a life or death situation. That they're going to die if you don't correct them, or you're going to die if you don't correct them. So just remember that if you can refrain from it, it's saying that if you stop arguing with people about what they think that's not necessarily true in your perception, stop attacking it, because I'm going to tell you, the minute you attack the person, you're going to shut down communication. You're not going to increase communication. They're going to be more resistant to listening to what you say than ever before if you're attacking what they say. So the Course is saying, so therefore, if you make it real, it says depression is then inevitable, because now you prove to that other person and to yourself that it's your job to escape from what is real, and that it's their job to escape from what is real. And so you just made it even more real. So in a lot of cases, you just get depressed. I'm arguing with you. I'm trying to get you to believe something I think you should believe. I'm attacking what you believe. So I'm making the whole thing much bigger than, much more realer than it actually is. So I'm going to end up getting more and more depressed about the situation, because now I'm even more further away from my goal, and my goal of peace. So the Course then says, this is impossible. It's impossible. What's impossible? To escape from something that's ultimately real. So let's go back. First of all, the Course in Miracles isn't normal thinking. It's talking to us as if we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. We're spiritual beings expressing ourselves through the body. We're spiritual beings appearing to inhabit a body. We're spiritual beings inhabiting a physical body. We are creators. That means we create with our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs. That's what we're seeing. That's the only thing that people are seeing, but they don't know it. But their own projections of thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs. So if you want to know what's going on inside yourself, what is it that you think is going on inside everybody else? It's a projection. You created. So what do you want? Well, I want to have peace. How do I have peace? Well, I try to make sure that I'm not dealing with a lot of conflict. What's the easiest way? To not be arguing with what you say, attack what you say, and necessarily trying to change what you say, because then we're just going to make it that much more real. And so it's going to be kind of depressing, because it looks like I've made this real and it can't change and it can't be another way. That's what happens in a lot of relationships, that people feel like they're stuck because it looks like whatever the thing they're upset about the most in the other person, that they're allowing themselves to be upset about, it looks like that's not changing, so they get depressed about it. They've made it real. My peace doesn't have anything to do with what you say or what you do. So your peace doesn't really have anything to do with what someone else is saying or what somebody else is thinking of doing. Your peace is an inner job. So your peace comes from you. Your peace comes from you, and your peace comes from the way you're interpreting things and the meaning that you're giving things. So that means there's what's happening, then there's my interpretation of it, and then there's my emotional response to it. What is it? There's what's happening, and then there's my interpretation of it, and that interpretation and meaning is what is generating the feeling that I'm having right now. Does that mean all the feelings that you're having, even in this moment, that's where they're coming from? Yeah, it's coming from the interpretations that you're giving to this moment, and then the way you're reacting to it. So you won't have any more happiness or enjoyment out of this class than you give it, because you're the one that's giving me and what I'm saying all the meaning that it has, and then you're reacting to it. So if I'm ever going to have peace, which is what the Course calls correction, then it's going to come from me recognizing, number one, that I need to stop confusing interpretation with fact. So I want you to hear that again. If you really want to have true correction and true inner peace, it's going to come from learning how not to confuse the way you're judging things and the way you're seeing things and the way you're interpreting things as necessarily being the truth, necessarily being a fact. So whatever that situation is in your life right now that you might be giving yourself any kind of conflict about, even though I know you all are totally enlightened and you don't have anything that you get upset about at all, we'll pretend that you do, that there might be one or two things in your life that you might be saying to yourself, if this were different, I would be happy. If they were different, I'd be happy. if this situation were different, I would feel better. If this circumstance changed, I would feel good. That's the guarantee of not having consistent happiness. The guarantee of happiness is knowing I'm the one that's giving this the meaning that it has for me. So my feelings in this moment is really coming from my interpretation of what's happening. So what do I do if I want to feel better? I need a new interpretation of what's happening. I need another way of looking at you. Rather than trying to change you, the easier way would be if I could change my interpretation of you and the meaning that I'm giving you and what you're doing. I could learn to look at it in a way that gave me peace and satisfaction. Then that would generate feelings of peace and satisfaction. So my feelings of peace and satisfaction is going to come from the interpretation that I'm giving this situation. So theoretically speaking, I could be at peace practically all day long. Can you see that? If me changing my mind is going to change how I feel, don't you think that's easier than me trying to change the person?
Oh, yeah.
But what do you see most people doing? Trying to change the person. Or it's what's easier to get a brand new job or learn how to look at the one that you're in such a way that you still are able to keep your peace about it. Doesn't mean you might not choose to do something else, but you don't have to be going through hell in the meantime. You don't have to be feeling like crap in the meantime. So again, the Course is saying there will not be correction until a person starts to entertain the idea that their feelings are coming from an interpretation, not a fact. That if you argue with another person about their ego thoughts, if you attack the other person, you're just making it realer. You're not actually dispelling it. You're actually making it even worse, especially if it's an attack. Or if you are giving unsolicited advice, correction, and help. If I didn't, you know what I mean? Anybody ever done that? Okay, all right. So then the Course in Miracles says, depression is inevitable, for you have tried to prove to your pupil and yourself, and everybody's your student and everybody's your teacher. Everybody's my student, everybody's my teacher. So I'm convincing you that our job is to escape from something that's real, and so therefore I am just making the situation worse. Now this will not make sense, I don't think, unless you understand that the goal of the Course in Miracles is peace of mind. So what might necessarily give me the most peace of mind might not be what the world has taught me I should necessarily do. If I don't argue with you about what you're thinking, then I'm going to have more peace. If I let it be, I'm going to have more peace. So if I argue with you, attack you, and constantly try to prove to you that everything you're saying is wrong, then I'm just making it more real and creating even more separation between us. I personally very seldom ever seen someone change something that they rigidly, totally believe just because you had a conversation with them and you told them they need to see it another way. How many times can you point to that in your life? I mean, about something that somebody believes and they want to believe. You don't change their mind in most cases. So you could have just as easily just kept your peace in that situation. You know, that's what I always pray for, that people come into my life that the way that I am is somehow helpful to them, because that makes for an easy relationship. I can be myself, they can be themselves. I'm not being demanded to change in some kind of way to please them necessarily. So we have a good rapport and a good energy going down, because I'm a firm believer that each and every one of you have your own individual spiritual path, your own path through life, and that your path through life is not my path through life. And the way that I do it may not be the way that you're led to do it. So therefore, I'm not going to spend my time trying to get you to believe the way that I do, and to look at things the way I look at it. Or to say, are you with me? right? So what you really want to do is ask a lot of questions, see who the person is. In most cases, especially if it's someone you say you care about, see how you could support them in that, being yourself, if you felt peace about it, if you felt like it was the right thing to do. But you wouldn't be looking for them to necessarily do it the way you do it. So then you have peace immediately. So, so that's number one. Number two, it says in paragraph 2, what is your major lesson to learn? It says, well, God's teacher's major lesson to learn is how to react to magic thoughts, ego thoughts, fear thoughts, anger thoughts, different thoughts, separation thoughts. I'm giving you the kind of thoughts it's talking about. It says, your second lesson is to learn how to react to those thoughts totally without anger. So next lesson, and did it say lesson to learn? Remember now it said lesson to learn. Did not say you right now today were capable of reacting to whatever somebody says or does without anger or upset. Did not mean that just because we heard what the end game is, that we're capable of doing that today. You may not be capable today of reacting to what you see as what's not true, or what you think is anger or upset, without feeling that way. So in other words, it's like, I'm going to eventually learn how to not get angry about getting angry. I'm going to learn how to not feel guilty about feeling guilty. In other words, all your thoughts are acceptable. All your thoughts are your thoughts. And so when you become more conscious, then you are learning how to react to ego thoughts without, I'm learning how to react without. Okay. Why is it important that I learn how to react without anger and upset to anger and upset? That's the same as saying, how do I learn how to not react to all the things that I see going on in the world? Basically, isn't that what you're hearing? To what upsets me. How do I learn how to do that? The Course in Miracles will never present a premise that it won't give you the way to get there. But what I've learned in 40 years is that most people think that it's up to them to make up the answer to what they're hearing, rather than let me listen to the answer that it's giving me. There's also a tendency of adults to not want to listen to answers that they didn't think of. That's a very strong tendency of adults. Why? Because we've been taught that if you're a mature adult, to a large degree, that's based on how much you are self-sufficient, autonomous, and can do everything on your own and figure it out on your own. So even, that's funny, isn't it? Even if you're going to give me an answer that would really help me out, I'll battle with you because it wasn't an answer I thought of. I think I'm the one that needs to come up with all the answers. So the Course is telling us, let me tell you something. The importance of learning how to respond to what people are saying or doing around you without making yourself upset and getting angry is because if I'm telling you that I'm a loving person and I want to be a peaceful person and I want to be a kind person and I want to be a joyful person and I don't want to be a hellraiser and I want not to attack people, well, that sounds like that's the opposite of a person that's expressing anger and attack all the time. Sounds like it to me. That if I'm going to be someone that is demonstrating love and kindness and peace, I can't be attacking and going off on everybody around me, trying to prove to them that they're wrong about everything that they're thinking of doing. So the Course in Miracles is telling me that at the point that I can learn how to react to whatever anybody is saying without me giving my peace away, when I get to that point, then I'm in a position for peace to come through me, for love to come through, because peace and love isn't coming through an angry person that's hitting somebody upside the head. That's not what's happening. So if I ever want to be a true demonstrator of what I'm studying, then I need to learn more about how to keep my joy, how to keep my peace, how to keep my center, and how to keep my happiness. Because at that point, the Course is saying, at that point, then Holy Spirit, which is your loving right self, that's all Holy Spirit means, your loving true self, then the Course says, then that part of you can start to speak of the reality of you. If I'm not going off about what you're doing and I'm keeping my peace, now I'm in a position to demonstrate the real me to you. And the real me is a me that's loving and peaceful. So I'm showing you that by not going off and getting angry and trying to fix and correct you and allowing myself to not get upset about the fact that you're upset. That way I can keep my peace. If I keep my peace, then the voice for peace can speak through me. The voice for peace isn't really coming through an angry person, because there are very few people who react to anger as if the person is being kind and loving toward them. Even if you tell me you're doing it for a good reason, that's in your interpretation. That's you making the decision that what you're doing for me is for my own good. And so you're acting as if your interpretation is correct. And it might not be correct at all. It might be better to ask me. It's too easy. I know it's too easy. It's a trip. It's a trip. Then it says, now you can speak of your reality. And so then the course takes it a step further. So, okay, now I'm going to speak of your reality and I'm going to speak of my reality. Then it goes, well, what is that? Well, I can remind the world of its sinlessness. I'm feeling peaceful. I can remind you that you're innocent, that there's a part of you that's sinless and guiltless and innocent. There's a part of you that is sinless and guiltless and innocent. Because many of us were taught when we were born that we were sinners. And we were born flawed. So a lot of us were taught we were sinful. As a matter of fact, me just saying this to you, to a lot of people, is blasphemous. And it would be quite alarming. You're going to tell me I was born in innocence instead of I was born in guilt? Yeah. So I'm reminding you of that, and I'm showing you that because I'm being a peaceful, loving person right in front of your face, not attacking you, not trying to fix you, not trying to correct you, because I'm focusing on the truth in you. That's why I do the little short discussion period after class, is because I want to give people a chance to share whatever it is that they think they need to share. I'm taking this slow enough for me to remember the steps even more for myself. The challenging part is for me to break the habit of getting upset about what other people say. That's what we basically just heard. That when you learn how to stop getting upset about what you see on the news, what you hear in the newspapers, what the people around you are saying that's not loving, when you stop getting upset about that, now you'll move and realize that you're upset because of the meaning that you're giving it, that it's really coming from your interpretation. So you stop getting angry at it. Then the Course says, well, what's going to happen is you're going to be peaceful. And once that you become peaceful, Spirit can speak through you and remind the world that it's sinless, that your innocence is the one unchangeable condition about you. I don't care what you think you've done. I don't care what you think you've done. There's a part of you that's innocent. There's a part of you that's loving. There's a part of you that's beautiful. That is your real self. No matter what you think you've done, no matter what you think you feel shame about, that doesn't mean that those things might not need to be corrected. Doesn't mean those things might not need to be corrected. Just because you get dirty and you go take a shower, you wash the dirt off, but you're still the you that you always were up under the dirt. That's what we're being told. That those thoughts that the person has that makes them feel angry or guilty or weak or sad or alone, that's the dirt. And the Course is the water and the soap. And any other spiritual teaching that's teaching love. Is that you can wash that off by getting another perception of it, but who you really are never changed. So the Course is saying, by me not attacking you and letting the voice for love speak through me to you, then I'm witnessing to who you really are. That's beautiful. So if I'm not attacking you and you feel safe, then Spirit can speak the word of God. And every time you hear the word God, you can just use the word love. Okay, so Spirit is saying now the Spirit in us can speak the word of love to listening ears and bring Christ's vision, which is love's vision, to eyes that see. In other words, Spirit can now use you because you are now not attacking yourself and you're not attacking anyone else and you're not angry. So the voice for peace, the energy of peace, the spirit of peace can now speak through you. And what you want to do is try to remind that person of the sinlessness and the innocence that they always are. But we heard a week ago that you don't necessarily do that if they're speaking, acting foolishly. You don't necessarily do that verbally, right? So he said, well, and then the man goes, well, what do you do? Well, you need to correct it at that point. The Course says at another level, and that level would be the level of reminding yourself that that person has a sane, loving, true part to them, just like you do. But I'm not going to tell. I'm going to tell myself, you're right. Who you really are is right. But I'm not going to say it to you verbally. I'm going to allow you, especially if there's no attack, I'm going to allow you to express yourself without me trying to fix or correct you. Because behind your anger and your upset is your sanity. And sometimes all you need to do in a situation is vent. That you just might need to just get it off your chest and say it just the way. So that person might be doing that. And so the Course is saying to us, if at all possible, don't get angry and upset with them because they're angry and upset. Because then you're the peaceful one in the situation. And if you're the peaceful one in the situation, you're the one that peace can come through. And that's what you want in that situation is what? Some peace. What do you want? What do you want in that job? Some peace. What do you want about your financial situation? Some peace. What do you want about your relationship, your career? Everything, anything you could name, ultimately, I want to experience that in total fulfillment and joy and happiness and peace. If not, what's the point? So then the Course in Miracles says, now is guilt forgiven, overlooked completely in Spirit's sight and in God's word. What does that mean? It means that if I'm focusing in on the innocence in you and the love in you, then I'm able to teach the truth of what we really are. Because if I'm capable of expressing love and peace to you and being that way in front of you, then that's the truth of all of us. Okay. Just came in the house. I'm really upset with you. You going off. You're mad about something and you're going off. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Well, first of all, I realize that you're telling yourself a story and you're telling yourself something that's not true, especially if what you're saying isn't freaking true. Right? Because you've had people do that before, right? But they were absolutely sure that they were right about what they were saying in the moment, and you knew that there wasn't, right? So what was making them upset was not you. What was upsetting them was the story that they were giving themselves, right? And then he says, well, then the next level is, well, let me not get upset with you and angry with you because you're doing that. What's the solution? Well, let me not attack it. Let me not argue with you about it. Now, you don't know if any of this will work if you don't try it, right? We know that the temptation is going to be to the part of us that doesn't want to do it differently, that does want to continue to blame the other person. Do you know what that part of the person is doing? It's trying to come up with every reason why what I just said isn't true. So there's a part of the mind that is trying to prove to us that the truth isn't true, and there's a part of us that's trying to prove to us that the truth is true. That's what we call being in duality. And that's where we're at. He says, well, why are there, people ask, well, why is there love and fear? Why is there hate and he said, well, because you got two ways of thinking. You got hateful thoughts and loving thoughts. You got thoughts of innocence and thoughts of guilt. And he said, the Course says, then we come up with the guilt to, like, sometimes we think it's good to feel guilty. And then he says sometimes we think it's better to feel innocent. So we don't want to let go of both of them because the Course says we think both of them has value. That I think it's valuable to feel guilt, and I think it's valuable to feel innocent. And then the mind would say, well, why am I seeing what appears to be guilt in the world, and I'm seeing what appears to be innocence in the world? Well, because you got both thoughts. You believe in both of them, so you're in a world that it seems like both of them exist. Then the mind goes, well, how can I be in a world that doesn't exist? Well, I got to get out of the world of duality. How do I get out of the world of duality? Well, I see everything as love or a call for love. So that anger and that upset that you're expressing to me right now, that's your call for help. That's your call for love. That's your call for love. That anger and that upset that person is feeling right now, that's their call for love. That's their call for help. That's their call for love. That's their call for help. Fear is a call for love. Guilt is a call for love. Sickness is a call for love. Lack is a call for love. All those things are calls for love. Everything we see going on in the paper that we read about, that we see happening all over the world, they're all calls for help. They're all calls for love. When you are feeling bad and you're feeling alone and you're feeling hurt, that's you making a call for love. You want help. You want love. You want to be recognized. You want to be cared for. You want to know you're valuable. But it comes in the form of me cursing you out and calling you a low-down, dirty dog. It may not necessarily come in the form of me saying, help me, please. I need your help. In most cases, calls for help look like robbery. It look like sickness. It look like anger. So, but guess what? I don't have to lose my peace because I give it a different interpretation. And the interpretation that I give my mate, a friend who's upset, is that what you're doing right now is calling for help. And then the Course says, but don't forget, take it to another level. That person is calling for the help of God. That person is calling for the help of source energy, higher power. You aren't God in that sense. You're not responsible for that other person. You're not responsible for, you did not create that other person. Parents, you did not create your children. You didn't create your children. You would have means that the bodies were made, that the soul came in, that already had its own history and lessons. This is not your first time here, folks. Nobody can screw up this much in one lifetime or be so successful. Why do you think a 4-year-old can start playing piano like Chopin? You know, this is think about it. Think about it. There's a part of you that knows that you're more than your body. There's a part of you that knows you're more than this human life. If you go deep enough in yourself, there's been some part of you that goes, that would be crazy for me to just be born, just to grow old and die one day. This is it. This is what it's all about. There's a part of all of us that knows that, and so I'm always making a special appeal to people who want to realize their spiritual self, get in touch with the self beyond the human self, which is okay. So I'm not putting the human self down. I'm just saying you're more, you're greater. So how do I get to that self? I learned how to stop getting angry at what other people are doing or saying, even my own anger or guilt. Then the Course says, that way you'll do what? Proclaim the truth about yourself. Then in paragraph 3, it says, anger but screeches, I love it, screeches. Guilt is real. So here it goes. Here's what it kind of looks like. I'm angry. What I'm saying to that person is, you're guilty, and the guilt is real. You're guilty. Whatever, if my anger is directed towards you, I'm saying, you're guilty. You've done something. You're guilty. It says, so the guilt is real. I've made it real. Then he goes, well, if I make it real, then what does the next line say? Reality is blotted out in this insane belief. What is reality? The reality is you are sinless, you are innocent, you are guiltless. That's your reality. But if I'm screaming at you and seeing you as guilty and trying to make you feel guilty, then I am not seeing you for who and what you actually really are. So that's an insane belief that you're guilty, and that's the replacement for God's word. And God's word, love's word, is what you just saw it in the previous paragraph. It's the same paragraph, actually. No, this is the previous paragraph, when it says, you are sinless, you are innocent. So when you're studying the course, whatever you are reading or wondering about, that it's usually right there on that page, right in front of you, the answer to what you're talking about. The course teaches that when you hear the truth, there's a part of you that will want to go to sleep at first. For me, there's nothing more exciting than hearing what I'm hearing right now and sharing it with you right now, right? Because everything it told me to do you know it's something I could do today? I could realize that maybe my interpretations and stories that I'm telling myself and the stories that somebody else is telling themselves is not necessarily true. That I'm angry and upset and sad today because I'm mistaking interpretation for fact. Whatever I'm interpreting my experience right now in such a way that I'm not allowing myself to have joy. Just like you can be interpreting this experience right now in a way that keeps you from feeling joy and keeps you from feeling happiness. This next paragraph is just, man, I don't want to say it. I'm teaching something that is so freaking opposite to what most people believe and most people hear that I can make my own self frustrated just trying to teach it. Because what it says can seem so irrelevant to what a person thinks they, like for instance, that people say, well, how did I end? Okay, I'm this spiritual being. How did I end up being in a physical body? And the Course in Miracles says, it's so deep. I wasn't going to say it at first, but it's okay. I'm going to say it now. So the minute you believe that the anger, guilt, grievances is real, the Course says then what happens is that then the body's eyes can see. Then all of a sudden you start to see it. Then it goes, and then next your ears start to hear it. And then it looks like your body's little space and breath becomes the measure of reality. Let me know when you hear what I just said. If you make your guilt real and make your separation real, then you're going to have a body that sees the guilt and a body that seems to hear the guilt, and you're going to think you're just this little body. I'm going to keep saying it. If a person thinks they're guilty and they've lost sight of their sinlessness and they think that they're separate, then what's going to happen is they're going to start to see it and hear it and think more and more and more that they are just this physical body only. And then they will forget that they are totally innocent and totally and completely an unlimited spiritual being. You are absolutely, totally powerful and beautiful and innocent. I'm glad that thrilled you. Mm-hmm. I need to hear it. So I'm definitely not going to form a relationship with someone that's going to always be calling me something other than that, and is going to constantly try to fix and correct whatever I do, tell me that I'm wrong all the time. And so therefore the Course is saying to us, reinforcing that and making it even realer, because you're going to get more separate from each other. Then you get upset with each other. Then at the point you get upset with each other, then you're not going to be allowing yourself to express peace and love with each other. So you're not able to witness to each other the sinlessness and the innocence and the beauty that you really are. So you're going to start to see yourself not in an unlimited, gigantic way. A person will start to see themselves in a very limited, fearful way. So if you're around people who don't see themselves as innocent and powerful then the way that you help them remember who they really are is as much as possible be able to remind them of their innocence by not attacking them when they are in their fear and they are in their upset. Not physically attack them. Then they got warm all of a sudden. So I want to know my unlimited self that I keep on hearing about and all these books I keep studying that can have anything and feel great and feel love all the time. So I got to learn how to start reacting to what the people say and do around me without attacking my own self with anger and with fear. Because every time I get angry and upset about whatever you're saying, I'm just attacking myself. Whenever I get angry and upset about what you're doing that I don't like, I'm just attacking myself because I'm the one that's feeling it, so I'm attacking myself. And because I'm the one that's feeling it, I'm attacking myself. So if I can learn how to react to what you're saying and doing without attacking myself, then I can become a really cooled out, peaceful person that can let the truth come through me to witness back to you the sanity that you have and the beauty that you have that you've forgotten about. And that's why you're so upset right now, because you've forgotten the truth of who you really are. And so the more I witness back to you that you are still innocent, then I'm tapping into the part of you that has sanity. And if you can tap into the part of that person that has sanity, you're going to see the situation resolved. So you just heard how to have situations where people are saying something and they're upset that you don't agree with, how to handle it. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to attack you. I'm not going to try to prove to you that what you're saying is wrong. I'm not going to make it realer than it already is. And I'm not going to get upset with you for temporarily being upset. And I'm not going to get upset with me for getting upset. What is supposed to the next thing? Not get upset about you getting upset, not getting upset about me being upset. So therefore I can be a peaceful person in front of you that can let love and peace come through me. And I could tap into the real you and give it up. And then let it be released and I'll have peace, because the goal is for me to keep my peace so that I can be a means of sharing peace with you. Do you want to give your problems over to a higher power? Most people who believe in a higher power of some type do. They want to give it over to God. So the way that you do it is, I'm going to give my stuff to God, I'm going to give your stuff to God. If I'm going to give my stuff to a higher power, I'm going to give your stuff to a higher power. And I'm not going to try to solve your problem, but I will ask for guidance. What I'm trying to do, to those of you watching online as well as in here, I'm going over the steps that the Course in Miracles is saying that we need to do, fully realizing that there's going to be a ton of resistance to hearing it, but that's why I allow it to be recorded and to do it the way I'm doing it. So because it takes repetition in order to really start to change your mind to think another way, because the Course says it was repetition that's got you thinking the way you already think. You think the way you think because you were taught to think that way, and you think it over and over again, and the more you think it, the more you believe it. Then it goes, well, the more you think it, then the more you believe it, the more you're going to see it, and the more you see it, the more you believe it, and since you believe it more, you create it more, and so then you believe. See, so it just keeps increasing. Wow. So that means everybody is in here is inside their own bubble of perception. Everybody in here is seeing what they believe is true in their interpretations, and their meanings according to this. So the Course is saying if you begin to wake up, then you want to stop getting angry about getting angry, or getting upset with yourself because you get upset, or to feel jealous because you feel afraid. In other words, you stop condemning yourself for any of the feelings and emotions that you have. You just say, I feel angry right now, or I feel peace right now, or I feel upset, but you will not judge yourself for having those feelings. Why wouldn't you judge yourself? Because none of those feelings, listen to this, none of those feelings change the truth about who you really are as a sinless, guiltless, loving, spiritual being. Your thoughts about yourself do not change who you are and the beauty and the love that you are. And what you think about anybody else doesn't change one single thing about them either. So stop feeling guilty about it. Nothing you think about someone else changes who they really are. And just like we are together right now learning another way to look at things, that same power is in everything and everyone you know that's guiding them the same way. So everybody has their divine guidance. Everyone has their inner guide. Everyone. No one's alone. It's not, if Spirit is making a way for you to hear a way to love yourself better and more, then Spirit is making a way for every being that exists to also love themselves and to recognize the truth. But if we're going to be a witness on this earth for what love is, then the Course is saying, well, you got to learn how to stop getting upset about what other people are thinking and saying and doing. But you have to learn how to do that. It's not something that just because we just heard it, you're going to be able to do it right off. But think about this, y'all. Really think about this for a minute. What could be easier than not trying to argue with someone, attack what they think, and change what they think? How hard is it, and how much more peaceful would it be to let them feel what they feel without you feeling like you had to be the one to correct them? What you're going to see happen is you'll see situations and relationships healed in your life that you never thought you would ever see healed, and you didn't even know how it could possibly be healed, because I've seen it in my own experience of studying the Course and in hundreds and hundreds of students over the last 40 years that I've shared it with. But here's the thing, unless I do it the way that it's instructed me to do it, then it's hard for me to get the result, which means unless I could listen to what you're saying and start practicing not trying to correct you, but asking Spirit what it is I need to say, if to say anything, because in most cases, you're going to be told to say nothing. That you're going to find you help people out the most when your mouth is closed. That was the other part that was funny. You will start to see more things solved in your life that you've been trying to solve by talking ego to ego. Meaning you're going to sit down and we're going to process this. You will be shocked at how quickly your own peace will come, and you'll see things healed in the situation, that you can not focus on the idea of trying to correct them. Realize whatever you're seeing in them is something that needs to be corrected in you. Then recognize that you want to disregard that ego, and you want to focus on the idea that there's a part of that person that is sane, that there's a part of that person really that's good, there's a part of that person that truly is love, and I'm going to do the thing that could be the best thing I could do for this person. I'm going to give this person up to a power greater than myself. I'm going to give this person up to God, and if there's anything that I'm supposed to do, then I'll be told what that is. But in most cases, do you know what you're only going to be asked to do? To look at it differently than the way they are looking at it. See, they're looking at it in a way that's keeping them sad, unhappy in some way, or afraid in some way. you're looking at it another way, which is, hey, I know who you are, and I'm willing to remember who you are as a good, loving, powerful, spiritual being. I'm going to remember that. That's what I'm going to do as your partner and your friend and your mate. When you forget how beautiful you are, when you forget how deserving you are, when you forget how free you are, and you locked up into thinking you're just a little physical body that's out here trying to pay bills and hope somebody like you before they desert you, you know, and all that other stuff you're trying to do. I know you've forgotten that you are this ultimately powerful divine being, and so therefore you got caught up in the play and you got caught up in the dance. And so when you're upset and angry right now, I'm not going to react to that with anger. I'm going to recognize that what you're doing is making a big call for the help of God. And so I just used your anger to remind me that I have that same help available to me also. And the reason why the person is afraid to begin with is because they're trying to do it all on their own without utilizing their divine self or their God self or their spiritual self. So the people you see struggling are the people who've forgotten who they really are. They really think they're just bodies that die one day, that's arguing with other bodies that seem to be different, and sometimes joining with them and thinking they're having fun together. But when you make another person, try to make another person feel guilty, the Course just told us, well, then you're going to become like a body that's looking out and seeing the guilt and seeing the fear and seeing the sickness and seeing the anger. He says, well, the reason why you're doing that, it's such an easy reason. He says, well, it's because you lost sight of your innocence, you lost sight of your guilt, of your how loved you are, how free you are, how powerful you are, how abundant you are. And most of all, you've forgotten that everybody you're looking at is another part of you, that you're just looking at the one that thinks it's a whole lot of different people. So what do you do? The Course says what you do is to realize you're just mistaking interpretation for the truth. I'm just mistaking my interpretation for the truth. And how do I know my interpretation is not true? My interpretation is not true because it's not giving me some form of peace. And anything that I'm looking at correctly, even death, I would look at it with peace if I was looking at it correctly. So when you're looking at something correctly, you're looking at it in a way that you still have peace about it, right? You know, when my sister made her transition in a house fire, I could look at that in a way as if that body was my sister and it no longer exists, and I could never ever know or see her again, which would be, that's not saying I wouldn't let myself feel any grief that comes up, but I know I'm not telling myself the truth. I know that if I was looking at that transition correctly, that I would be feeling more peace about it. I'd be having some form of peace about it. So yes, she's gone out of the body, but she's not her body, and so she still therefore exists. She's just not in the body right now. Now, she's eternal. Now, looking at it that way made me feel better. Looking at it the way people look at it who don't have an awareness of their spiritual identity because they've just forgotten, well, the way they look at stuff just makes you feel worse and horrible. I'm sorry, being realistic wouldn't be me looking at it like my sister's dead and she's just a body and she's dust and doesn't exist right now. See, I know now that perception has come from that person being in a world that was constantly telling them that they were just a human being body that goes through guilt and anger and fear and upset and doesn't last that long. In other words, people who learn to believe they're separate, people who learn to believe that they're separate tend to also believe in just being bodies that die. They're separate from everybody else. I know this is deep, but it's not. It's not at all. So I'm going to say this prayer, and see, that's what gets me. It's like friggin' 2 o'clock, and for me, it's like I'm just getting to the point that I can hear what it's saying in a way that's even exciting to me, and for some people it might be like it's been like 300 years, right? That's how we know time is relative, because for some people it's like, oh man. You getting ready to stop, and then some people go, oh, thank God. Thank God this guy's about to stop. You know what I'm saying? I know, because we all feel the same things. We just feel them at different times, so we think we're different. You know that? All of us feel the exact same emotions and feelings, but our ego would tell us, well, my emotions and feelings are different. No, they're the same ones. You just might be doing it at a different time than I am right now. So now you're telling yourself that your feelings are different from mine. You having a great day, you can't relate to me not having such a good day. And then the next day you're depressed and want to jump off a building, and I'm saying I'm feeling great. So the only thing that's different is the time that we feel stuff. So I want to say that to you again. Everybody in this room feels the same things you do. Everyone in this room feels the same feelings and emotions that you do. Everybody. Do you have a desire to be loved and nurtured and cared for and treated wonderfully and want to feel joy and want to feel peace and want to feel connected? Yes. Well, I'm saying for you. Yes. Right. So does everybody else that you know. They feel exactly the same thing and they want exactly the same thing. And so they are angry because they feel like in their interpretation, they are not getting it and it's not happening the way that they want to have it. So they attack who they think is denying them of it. And why am I attacking you? Because somehow I have made myself believe my happiness is dependent on something you do, and you're not doing it good, and you're not doing it right. So the person that I'm looking for is the person that's going to give it to me the way I want it. Would you want you? Would you want you?
Yes.
Would you be excited to have you for a lover, a friend, a mate? With you the way you are, would you be excited for that to be your partner? Or are you trying to see someone so that they can make you feel that way? Right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to remind you of your value as much as I possibly can. I care about you, so no matter what you say or do, I'm not going to try to fix you, not going to try to correct you, not try to prove to you that what you're thinking about yourself is wrong. What I'm going to do is react to the way that you are right now without me getting angry and upset about it. Because if I don't get angry and upset about it, then I can be peaceful. And if I can be peaceful, then I can show you how loving you are and how much you deserve love. Because now I'm letting you experience a person in front of you recognizing your value and recognizing who you really are. So I've said it about 4 times. So until you try that and try that with some consistency, you can't say it wouldn't work. But I know it does. All right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to say this prayer, and then I'm going to stop here. Woo!
Woo! I'm ready for the prayer.
You but mistake interpretation for the truth. You mistake interpretation for the truth. You think your interpretations are the truth. You think your interpretations are the truth. You mistake interpretations for the truth. And you are wrong. You are wrong. If you're full of fear, anger, guilt, shame, unhappiness, boredom, loneliness, then you are wrong. You're mistaking your interpretation of your life for the truth. You're mistaking your interpretation for the truth. Then it says, but a mistake is not a sin. Making a mistake is not a sin. Making a mistake is not something to feel guilty and fearful and ashamed about. Making a mistake is not a sin. Making a mistake is no big deal. Making a mistake is no big deal. It doesn't change anything about you to make a mistake. Do you know that reality? Do you know that what's real? Do you know that what's real hasn't been taken from its throne by your mistakes? Just because you made a mistake or you made a mistake and you think you made mistakes, you haven't changed anything. You haven't changed the love. You haven't changed the truth about you. You haven't changed the fact that you are an innocent child of an infinite creator. You haven't changed nothing about what you really are because you made a mistake. Reality hasn't been taken from its throne by your mistakes. So what does that mean, dude? What does that mean, dude? What does that mean, black dude? What it means is God rules forever. Love rules forever. Love rules forever. Love rules forever. God rules forever. The love rules forever. Your freedom rules forever. The beauty about you rules forever. You have not taken reality from its throne. No matter what you think about yourself, you are priceless. No matter what you think about yourself, you are treasure. No matter what you think about yourself, you are loved. No matter what you think about yourself, no matter what interpretations you've given to yourself, you are still adored, you're still valued, you're still valuable, you're still loved, you're still lovable. No matter what you think about yourself, that's the reality. And so the laws of love, the laws of God, the laws of love alone prevail upon you, and the laws of love alone prevail upon the world. No matter what you think is going on in your life right now, love, God, truth, happiness, peace, abundance, those laws still are operating, and they're operating for you. So the only thing there is love. The only thing there is God's love. The only thing there is the love of our Creator. That love can never leave us. That love would never leave us. That love would never abandon us. God's love remains the only thing there is. So do you know that you may not know it, but fear is an illusion. Fear is the result of it's a false idea. It's false evidence appearing real. Fear is false evidence appearing real. So does it appear that there's guilt, anger, grievances, sadness, sickness, lack, attack? Yeah, it looks like it. But you are like God. You are like love. You are like love. You are like love. You are love. You are love. You are love. You are peace. You are joy. You are free. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. You are forgiven. You are forgiven. You are forgiven for what you didn't do. You are forgiven. You are still innocent. You are still loved. And only form relationships as much as possible that help remind you of that. So in order for you to heal, just let your own mistakes be corrected. So how do you let your own mistakes be corrected? Are you ready to have your mistakes be corrected so that you can experience all of the abundance and all of the love and all of the joy and all of the fun and all of the relationships that you always want to do? Would you like to have everything you've ever wanted in your heart? All you have to do is remember one thing. If you sense even the faintest irritation in yourself as you respond to anybody, if you experience even the faintest hint of irritation in yourself when you're responding to somebody, if you feel the smallest bit, the smallest hint of irritation when you respond to anyone, you need to instantly realize you have made an interpretation that's not true. Whenever you feel the slightest bit of anger and the hint of irritation in yourself, you are making an interpretation. That fear and anger is coming from an interpretation, but it's an interpretation that's not true. So what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? You turn within. You turn within. You look inside yourself to your eternal guide. You have an eternal guide. You have a divine guide. You have a spiritual guide. You have a true self inside of you. You have a God inside of you. You have a truth inside of you. So you turn within to that truth, to that eternal guide, and you let that guide judge what your response should be. I'm feeling irritated right now. I kind of want to go off. So I'm making an interpretation that's not true. So I need to turn within. I need to turn within, and I need to ask Spirit, what, if at all possible, what is the response? What is the response that I should give right now? What is the response? Because I know I'm not seeing this correctly. How do I know? Because I am angry. I am feeling irritated. I am beginning to feel upset. So that lets me know that I'm not seeing this in a way that is true, because a way that was true and a way that is true would be a way that would give me some form of peace. And I know what I'm seeing right now. I don't feel peace. I know right now I'm not feeling peace, so that means I must not be seeing something about this correctly. So what do? You go within. You ask your inner guide. You ask the Spirit inside of you. You ask God within. What should my response be? What should my response be? And then you will be healed. And in your healing, the other person is going to be healed with you. When you truly allow yourself to have peace, then the other can also have peace also. So what is your sole responsibility? 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 Yeah, man. What's your responsibility, man? Are you ready to hear your responsibility? Are you ready to hear your responsibility? Yeah. Your sole responsibility is to accept the atonement for yourself. But the atonement is correction. What? Yeah, your only responsibility is to accept the truth for yourself. Accept the truth for yourself. Your only responsibility is to accept the correction for yourself. To let yourself be correct. Your only responsibility is to accept this for yourself. To accept the truth for yourself. Wow. Because that's correction. That's the undoing of errors. So when you start to let your own errors be corrected, when you let your own fears be corrected, when you let your own guilt be corrected, then you've been forgiven. So how do you know? 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 How do you know when you've forgiven yourself? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? You no longer condemn yourself. You no longer condemn yourself. When you have truly forgiven yourself, that means you won't be condemning and judging and putting yourself down. When you've forgiven yourself, you no longer condemn yourself. And so you will no longer condemn anybody else. When you have stopped condemning yourself, how do you know when you stop condemning yourself? You're no longer condemning everything and everybody else around you. So does that mean a person that's condemning everything and everybody around them is a person who has not forgiven themselves, that they're still condemning themselves, they're still asking for pain and bringing pain to themselves by condemning themselves? Yeah, that's what's happening when you're around a person that's condemning everybody else. But if you're around somebody and they're not condemning anybody else, and you are not condemning anybody else, then you know you have finally forgiven yourself. You have finally forgiven yourself. So who is there you cannot heal? So there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Would you acknowledge yourself? Those of you online, you see now they just said, hey. So, man, that was great. Let me share with you. I'm a full-time teacher of the course, and for those who like to make a financial expression of appreciation, you can do that. I appreciate it. All you have to do is try to make it easy. You can use Venmo or the Cash App or PayPal or Zelle or Square. All of you deserve to receive for the things that you do in the world. All of you deserve. Let yourself receive. So those who would like to share, all you need is my email address, Earl Purdy at earlpurdy.com. Earl Purdy at earlpurdy.com. I'm also available for clarity sessions and astrology and numerology sessions. Just go to my website, Earl Purdy, P-U-R-D-Y, earlpurdy.com. And Miss Cassandra is doing incredible sound bath and biofield tuning in about 10 to 15 minutes.
That's why I'm running away.
That's why she's running away.
But I got flyers.
So we got a lot more details about that. So I'm available for one-on-ones. And also with using astrology and numerology for those who are open to do that. And again, just go to my website and you can, earlpurdy.com, and you can make an appointment right from my website. And all my classes on YouTube as well as on Facebook. So I recommend listening to what we heard at least 4 times. 4 is the number of building. It's the number of firm foundations in numerology. So try to go over things at least 4 times if possible. And subscribe and follow me. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Earl, is there something to pass around for cash?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. That's so nice of you to want to do that. I'll pass it around. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all for sharing. And if you are not on my contact list, I would love to have you on it because just going into the fall, I have some things that I'm going to start doing that I would love to give you an opportunity to take part in if you want to. So let me get you on the contact list. Okay. The email address is earlpurdy at earlpurdy.com. That's P-U-R-D-Y. earlpurdy at earlpurdy.com. I really want to thank you. Those of you online, those of you in here. We're getting some incredible feedback. And that makes me feel so good. There's so many people that are wanting the community and wanting to join and wanting to connect. And I think that's the way you are too, right? So let's take a deep breath. Take another one. You would mistake interpretation for the truth, and you were wrong. A mistake is not a sin, nor has reality been taken from its throne by your mistakes. God reigns forever, and God's laws alone prevail upon you and upon the world. God's love, the Creator's love, remains the only thing there is. The Creator's love remains the only thing there is. The Creator's love remains the only thing there is. Love remains the only thing there is, and you only deserve love. Let's give it up for us again. Come on. Come on. Y'all so cool. You're juicy and cute, too. On top of everything else. Hey, thank you for checking this out. I love you and appreciate you so much. Put your clothes on. Put some clothes on. Okay.